Hey everyone, so Kaido just said that Haki is more important than devil fruits, and that is actually something that One Piece fans have debated for years. How important is Haki? Is Haki too important in the story these days? Does Haki trump everything else, etc.? And while there are different ways that Kaido's statement could be interpreted that we are going to be breaking down, I do think that this statement is very telling of what the key to Luffy ultimately defeating Kaido by the end of this arc will come down to. And I do believe at the end of the day, Haki, and particularly Conqueror's Haki, will be more important than the Nika fruit, which is what I will be explaining today. So before we get into it, make sure to subscribe for more One Piece content every week. And while none of us can eat a devil fruit like Luffy, we can eat something way better with HelloFresh, the meal prep service that basically turns you into a 5-star chef with zero effort. HelloFresh is the sponsor for this video, and as I've been telling you all for a while now, I really hate cooking because I am not a good cook, and when I finish a long day of work, the last thing I want to do is spend an hour cooking. That's why HelloFresh is such a game changer. First of all, you don't have to do groceries because HelloFresh gives you literally all the ingredients you need to make a meal. On top of that, the recipes are so easy, I'm regularly able to prepare the meals they send me in under 20 minutes. And the best part is the food actually tastes really good. Most recently, I made myself some beef flauta supreme. And depending on what you want to eat, you can customize your meal plan for your own personal preferences, so you can get family friendly, vegetarian, calorie saving if your goal is to try and eat healthy, and more. And guess what? You can actually get 16 free meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com and use code MrMorge16 for 16 free meals and 3 gifts. Link in the description below. So that aside, just last week I released a video talking about the importance of the villain's dialogue. I strongly suggest you check that video out after this one, because anytime a villain is putting forward some sort of concrete belief or philosophy, that is almost guaranteed to have some relevance to future plot points, where the villain is set to either be proven correct or incorrect by future events of the narrative. And the key here that needs to be understood is that the villain is not always wrong. Lots of times villains say things that are clearly setups for the narrative to prove them incorrect, but other times some of the most compelling villains will often put forward beliefs that are in fact proven to be correct. So when Kaido makes this claim that Haki is more important than devil fruits, and that Roger was able to conquer the pirate world with just Haki, Kaido may in fact be pointing out a valid shortcoming of Luffy's. Maybe Kaido is correct in saying that just because Luffy has this special sun god fruit, that does not mean he is truly living up to Roger. If Oda intends this line to have truth to it, then that likely indicates that Luffy is not going to beat Kaido without taking his Haki at least one step further. However, that's only the case if this line is meant to be taken as a correct belief by the villain and not a false assumption by the villain that will be disproven. So why do I lean towards this actually being a statement that should be taken for truth? Obviously, my personal bias. I don't think Luffy just makes a big fist with his legendary devil fruit and defeats Kaido. As you know, I think the story is set up for Kaido to teach Luffy one last lesson. But even if we set my bias aside, there are many things that suggest to me that Kaido is actually on the money here, and Luffy isn't going to just win this battle without improving his Haki. Because first of all, at the most basic level, we need to look at the statement itself. A strong devil fruit isn't enough. Haki is what is most important in the end. Is Kaido totally off base here, or does the series actually support this statement? Well, we can look at it first factually and then thematically. Factually, it's pretty cut and dry. Yes, the series definitely supports the idea that Haki is far more important than devil fruits. The fact is that you can clearly become the strongest or one of the strongest in the world with just Haki, whereas you very clearly cannot be one of the strongest characters in the world with just a strong devil fruit, even if it is one of the absolute most powerful devil fruits in existence. In fact, the story really goes out of its way to highlight the fact that devil fruit abilities on their own aren't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Even among top tier characters who happen to have extremely powerful fruits, They are all also clearly top tier in terms of Haki. The fact is, there are plenty of top tier characters with just Haki, but no top tier characters with just Devil Fruits. Every single strong character has been shown to be at least proficient in advanced levels of Haki, whereas having a Devil Fruit seems completely optional. Even just looking at the Luffy versus Kaido fight, it's easy to forget now, but by far the biggest leap forward for Luffy over the course of this fight was not awakening his fruit, it was when Luffy got Advanced Conqueror's Haki. The Nika fruit is the flashy new upgrade, so it probably seems like a bigger deal due to recency bias, but let's keep things in perspective here. The Advanced Conqueror's Haki upgrade was an exponentially far bigger leap forward for Luffy than the Nika awakening. Advanced Conqueror's Haki was by far the biggest increase in relative strength Luffy has ever had in the entire series, and it's really not even close. Because if you rewind to before chapter 1010, before Luffy got Advanced Conqueror's Haki, it was absolutely unthinkable among readers that Luffy could fight Kaido 1v1 at all. Everyone was convinced that it had to be a group effort, and that's exactly why it was a team effort on the rooftop versus Kaido. It was obvious that none of these supernovas were anywhere near as strong as these two Yonko. But once Luffy got Advanced Conquerors, that was when he skyrocketed into this whole new league where he could, for the first time, actually fight Kaido 1v1. Luffy went from being basically a fraction of Kaido's strength to actually being able to hold his own mano a mano with that single upgrade. Like, really put this in perspective, Advanced Conqueror's Haki took Luffy from clashing evenly with Ulti 20 minutes prior, essentially in base form being equal to a Tobi Roppo, actually even losing the clash, to literally splitting the sky with Kaido, the world's strongest creature. It was pretty absurd. If I were to reference some fan-made tiers, Advanced Conqueror's Haki was basically what catapulted Luffy all the way up to consensus Yonko tier, when before that, he was literally nowhere close. On the other hand, the Nika Awakening has him still at, I don't know, I guess he's a bit higher up within Yonko tier. It's kind of hard to tell at the moment, but it's clearly not as big of a leap proportionally. So basically, it doesn't matter what you really look at. Throughout the series, the strongest characters will always have top tier Haki, with the Devil Fruit basically being completely optional. The series regularly points out that just a strong Devil Fruit doesn't mean anything, and even over the course of this fight alone, we have seen that the Conqueror's Haki upgrade has been, relatively speaking, a much bigger upgrade for Luffy than his Devil Fruit upgrade. So just factually, throughout the story, it seems like Haki is definitely more important than Devil Fruits. Factually, this statement seems accurate. Now, thematically, does this make sense? I would think, of course. One of the absolute most important themes in One Piece is spirit, the strength of one's will. That is implied to be really the absolute most important trait for those that wish to become strong, the power of one's conviction. Thematically, that is meant to be the most powerful weapon in the world. Stronger than armor, weapons, and yes, likely Devil Fruits as well. And Haki is, of course, that willpower, that spirit, that conviction, literally manifested as your fighting strength. And what's important is that Haki is intrinsic. It is you. It is your own will. It is not something that you can just acquire or find like a Devil Fruit. So ultimately, while Luffy's fruit is very much an important part of his identity, Luffy's Haki is just thematically always going to be more representative of who he is and his true power, which is having a will that is stronger than anybody else's. So both factually throughout the story, Haki has always been shown to be more important, and thematically it only makes sense for Haki to be more important. It would honestly be somewhat incoherent writing if eating some random fruit that comes your way is more important than the strength of your spirit, as spirit is repeatedly placed on such a pedestal in the One Piece world. And finally, just think about the characters that are best representative of Haki versus Devil Fruits. Kaido references Roger as the man who conquered the pirate world purely through Haki. Roger is basically the gold standard for Pirate King. Roger is the man Luffy is chasing after. Roger represents everything Luffy wants to one day be. If Oda is having Kaido reference Roger as evidence that Luffy is missing something, then it is more likely that Kaido's statement should be taken for truth. On the flip side, we know the exact opposite of everything that Roger represents. The dark counterpart to Luffy, the character that is basically painted out to be the worst possibility for Pirate King, and that is Blackbeard. And of course, his whole MO is just stealing powerful devil fruits. Literally his entire crew's agenda is to just get strong by getting a bunch of devil fruits, and Blackbeard is the only character that is shown to have this singular plan to become Pirate King by just juicing up himself and his crew through powerful fruits. I really don't think Kaido is wrong here in saying that Luffy's fruit may be powerful, but ultimately Haki is the true measure of a Pirate King. Which is precisely why it is unlikely that Luffy will simply win thanks to having woken up a legendary devil fruit that makes him feel like he's all-powerful, especially considering Luffy's actual progression of strength over the course of this entire saga. This whole saga to save Wano and defeat Kaido has been building the storyline for Luffy, where he is climbing up the ladder to defeat Kaido by improving his Haki, one step at a time. Obviously first was Whole Cake Island, with Luffy mastering Observation Haki and Future Sight, and then in Act 2 it was mastering Armament Haki and Ryo. And finally in Act 3, he seemingly got the final piece down of Advanced Conqueror's Haki, the huge leap forward that put him on par with the Yonko. But then all of a sudden Who's Who is talking about the Gomu Gomu no Mi being some special mystery fruit, and oh yeah, there's this legendary sun god named Nika, and 30 chapters later Luffy just wakes up with a special fruit, and that's the key to defeating Kaido? It seems a little jarringly off track from the steady progression that Luffy was on in terms of mastering Haki to reach the top. And it's interesting that right now when we're switching up and suddenly his special devil fruit seems to be the key, Kaido is actually verbally reminding us that no, even with this fruit, Haki is ultimately what matters more, implying that Luffy does need to take one final step forward in Haki to truly earn this victory and complete the journey that he's been on from the start of this saga. Further reinforcing that is the simple fact that Wano is again, as I've been saying for so long, heavily centered around the theme of spirit, which is of course inherently tied to Haki. Strength of spirit has regularly been played up as the most important thing throughout Wano, and it has been what most of Kaido's focus has been on. Not to mention Conqueror's spirit in particular has been a huge focus throughout the arc, in terms of how there isn't room for too many conquerors, what it takes to be a conqueror, what it means to be a conqueror among conquerors. So heavy emphasis on spirit, and particularly Conqueror's spirit. And especially the dynamic between Luffy and Kaido in particular has been all about Kaido trying to break his Conqueror's spirit. From their very first interaction where Kaido is mocking Luffy for thinking that he is any sort of a king, and then taking note of Luffy's indomitable spirit, Luffy's Conqueror's spirit, that Kaido then makes a goal to break, to Kaido then beginning to gain respect for Luffy as a man who could potentially reach the height of other conquerors, to Kaido wanting to take the light out of Luffy's eyes and crush his heart. The dynamic between Luffy and Kaido from start to finish has been about strength of spirit, which is why fittingly, that messaging is coming back at the climax of their fight. That yes, Luffy's pulled this rabbit out of a hat with this absurd devil fruit ability, but at the end of the day, Kaido is reminding Luffy that strength of spirit is what really matters. Strength of spirit is what it takes to be the strongest. And strength of spirit is what their entire storyline together has been thematically centered around from the start of the arc. So all of this, to me, points to Luffy needing to prove a bit more in the Haki department before all is said and done. After all, Oda did say that he doesn't think readers would be satisfied if Luffy beats Kaido because his punch is so strong. So I personally doubt that this truly is the finishing blow. I wouldn't be surprised if it is an extremely effective punch and Kaido maybe is seemingly down momentarily, maybe even in the same manner Luffy was down momentarily. But I ultimately doubt Luffy puts Kaido away for good this arc without a step forward in Conqueror's Haki being involved. So let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, and if you enjoyed this video then definitely like, comment, and subscribe.